and welcome to this June edition of Monroeville at your service. We have a somewhat abbreviated show today, but still some wonderful information and images to share with you. Here's a quick look at what's on today's show. The Monroeville Foundation held its annual Community Day earlier this month. We'll have a video recap of some of the sights and sounds from a fun-filled event. A resident has a question about on-street parking in Monroeville. My response comes later in the show. And this month's Manager Minute, I'll be covering the issue of volunteerism. But first, joining us in the studio is our Director of Public Works and Engineering, Paul Hugus. Hey, Paul, how are you doing?
Good afternoon. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. And thank you for doing this. I know you are a super busy guy. You're both the Director of Community Development, Engineering, Streets, Recycling, Parks, Maintenance, all kinds of things. How long have you been working for the municipality?
31 years.
31 years. But you're a lifelong resident of the community.
Born and raised, educated, Gateway High School, community college, and then off to college at Point Park University.
Yeah, and got your undergrad and some graduate courses as well.
That's correct.
But your service to the municipality predates actually being on the payroll, because you served with number one.
Yes, Fire Company number one, where I started as a junior firefighter, worked my way through the ranks as a fire chief for 13 years.
So when we did Chief Cole, he talked about riding his bike from Garden City over to number 4. But for you, it wasn't that long of a trip, was it?
No, I didn't ride my bike.
Just a couple blocks away.
Yes.
Excellent. Now, you served as fire chief as well, right?
Correct.
And it was about 12 years you served there?
Yeah, 12, 13 years I
Were
was
you
there.
the first Hugus to serve as fire chief?
No. Well, as chief, but I got there via my father, who joined the fire service in 1970. And when I got to be age of 16, my brother had already joined, and then I joined.
If I'm at home watching, what would be your little commercial for why someone might want to consider volunteering here in Monroeville for the fire department?
You know, I didn't know a lot about it until, obviously my father joined, and I was very young at the time, and it was just a great place to go hang out with him and to see what he did, and just became very, very interested in it. Got involved with a lot of training, got involved with a lot of people that I still know today that I met when I was in the fire department. It's a time of my life that, I don't ever regret a minute of it, but it was time to step away when I did.
Yeah, and that's partly due to your responsibilities at the municipality were growing a lot, and of course you were raising your family and everything else you had going on.
Yeah, correct. I was actually still in college when that death occurred, because I was going to college at night, being a fire chief, working full-time, family, kids, so it was a pretty heavy load.
And I'm always amazed everywhere I go with you, somebody knows you, it seems like, if not from the fire service, but even from volunteering with youth sports and so forth.
Yeah, I did a tour of youth sports. I was a youth football coach and a wrestling coach also.
Outstanding. What I like about you, Paul, is that you've struck me as the kind of guy who's a natural leader in every respect of the word, but at the same time, not a pushy fellow to kind of like try to be the leader. You're like cream that flows to the top. It just kind of naturally goes there. And I'm really impressed by that because you really seem to have it together. In fact, the first time we met, you gave me this green book. It was Tim Little was having an introduction for me to the department heads, and you gave me this book, and it's like, I got a lot of homework to do to keep up with this guy. And I'm just so impressed about how organized you are. But it kind of has to be, because as I was joking a little earlier with your titles of Public Works and Engineering, you have a position that oversees how many employees within the municipality?
70 full-time employees, 4 to 5 part-timers, and then this time of year we have summer employees also.
Wow, so that's like about 100 or so.
Yeah, probably on all total, 80 to 85 this time of year.
And we don't have to have all the stats memorized, but you have how many buildings, acres, miles of roads?
Yeah, so we maintain 110 miles of municipal roads. We also maintain county and state roads during winter maintenance events, which accumulates about 10 miles for winter maintenance. Obviously all the neighborhood parks, the community park, and all the municipally owned structures.
So you're cutting all the grass, every time a little water line breaks or there's an electrical issue, a door isn't working, your team is doing it.
Correct. And in addition, probably the biggest thing that residents understand is refuse collection and recycling.
Yeah, that's kind of unusual still in our
Yes.
world. A lot of local governments have outsourced that to a private contractor, whether it's Republic or Waste Management. But this community does full service garbage and recycling.
It does, and it's something the residents really do appreciate. And even at the Public Works facility, we have our own fueling station, which is something very odd that other communities do not have, because we maintain the fuel for police, fire, EMS, the Monroeville Municipal Authority. So our fueling station we go through about 200,000 gallons of fuel per year out of the fueling station. And the other thing our Public Works has that most communities don't is a vehicle maintenance department, because again, we maintain all the police, fire, EMS, Public Works, and engineering miscellaneous equipment. It's all total about 200 vehicles and equipment within the municipal fleet.
To keep it all straight, you gave me this really neat chart, and it's just amazing how all the departments, from community development all the way to the animal control officer, but municipal storm sewers, street lights. I understand we have 42 traffic lights here in Monroeville.
We do have 42 traffic signals. Now, they're owned and maintained by the municipality, but they're permitted by PennDOT. So we have to operate them under the premises of PennDOT's permits, but we have to maintain those traffic signals.
So if there's a light out and you see a bucket truck nearby, that's one of our crew out there maintaining that light.
That's correct.
Wow, there's a lot. And also planning and community development, which sometimes isn't always under Public Works or engineering, but in this community, all the zoning issues, subdivisions, permits for construction, even if it's simple as a deck, kind of falls under your purview and one of your teammates.
Correct. So, mainly a lot of the things we do is land development, the land development process, subdivisions, conditional uses. But we also enforce what they call the Uniform Construction Code, which is under the premises of labor and industry. So the building/fire protection division, they go through a lot of permits, do a lot of inspections. We do occupancy inspections for every apartment unit that is vacated, any house that is sold or rented. We do occupancy inspections for those. One of the biggest emphasis is code enforcement. This time of year becomes very, we have a lot of neighborhood inspectors who will call and complain because their neighbor didn't cut their grass. And, we go through a lot of those every day. The inspectors will go look at it, write a violation letter. You have a certain amount of time to rectify that problem. If not, we will send somebody to cut your grass for you.
You had me for a minute there when you said we have a lot of neighborhood inspectors. I'm thinking we have 3 code guys who go out, but it kind of took me a minute to get your humor.
Yes.
People let us know when grass is tall in their neighbor's property or other kind of things.
Yeah, I always compare it to spring is like, the Punxsutawney Phil. People kind of start looking out their windows and looking at their neighbors and, letting us know if things aren't being done properly.
And kidding aside, we really need that, quite frankly, because we can't be everywhere. So whether it's a pothole, a stop sign that fell, or a code issue in their community, we really do need them to report that. We have a see-click fix, which is a way that citizens can let us know and give us a good location for where that issue is. At the end of the day, there's 2 things with code enforcement. It's the personal safety and public safety of the community, but it's also the property values. We've seen in Allegheny County, when code enforcement slides in communities, that's a slippery slope to community decline and decay, which nobody wins. Everybody's property is affected by that slide. So we are proactive. We're proud of that because public safety is first, but also maintain the property values. But this is the time of year where you guys really shine in one of your biggest efforts, and that's in the road paving program. Can you help us, Paul, understand how does that work? You have 110 miles of road, and we have about $2 million of budget. How do we make that work? Because it seems to me that, to build a mile of road might even cost $1 million, let alone $2 million to kind of maintain 110 miles. So how do you guys do that?
Well, we take the approach, typically in October of each year, we'll start looking at the roads. So like I said, we have 110 miles of roads. We physically go out and drive each road. There's nothing that tells you the story.
So every year roads get looked at.
Correct. Your eyeball tells you. and we use a system that we plug the information into our geographical information system. It helps us maintain and track what we need to do or not need to do. We rate the roads on a 1 to 10 basis. Based on those evaluations, we try to establish, we have a staircase type of approach to it. So if a road is newly milled and paved within 2 years, we would do what's called a fog seal. It's almost like a driveway sealer. What we found is the asphalt that we use, not just Monroeville, any community, is probably not the same quality as what we had 10, 15 years ago. So we fog seal. It's very similar to a driveway sealer, but it keeps the water out. The water is detrimental to your road. If you get water in your road and it freezes, it heaves, that causes potholes. So we try to keep the water out. That's the first step to it. The next step to it is after they're a few years old, you'll see stress marks and cracks in your road. We're very aggressive with doing crack sealing in our roadway system. We do that in-house. We have the capability of in-house. And I usually call it the half-life of a road, 7 years. We'll do a seal coating of the road. Not the most popular methodology, but it's something we have to do because we just simply can't afford to mill and pave a road anymore. It just costs too much money. To mill and pave a road, in this year's monies, it's $260,000 per mile. Where if you seal coat a road, it's $60,000 per mile. So there's a huge difference in cost. So at a half-life, at 7 years, we try to seal coat it. It prolongs it. We try to get to a 12 to 15-year life cycle out of every road. That's our goal, to keep our roads maintained to what we need to be. We looked at our roadway system 10 years ago, probably 12 years ago. We were 50 miles behind schedule on milling and paving of a road. We had to change the way we did business. We couldn't afford to mill and pave every road, but you couldn't afford not to do anything. So that's why we interjected this next step, which is a seal coating process. And it's a small chip that's embedded in emulsion, and then we put a flush coat over top of it that kind of locks the stones into place. But it absolutely prolongs the life of a road.
So the chip seal, some might call that a tar and chip, but
Correct.
It's really not. And the reasons why, at least my understanding it, is that it really is not quite the tar substance that maybe was used in the industry 20 years ago. It's much more of a liquid, might be the right word, viscosity. It has a thinner viscosity
Correct.
to it. So
it's a different makeup of an emulsion.
Yeah.
It'll grab the chips, and when they put it down, you'll see large rollers. They roll it and roll over it, and then you'll have a sweeper to go over it. And we leave it sit for a few days for cars to drive over it. Days like today when it's 90 degrees out, it embeds pretty easily. We leave it go for a few days, and then we put the flush coat over it, and it just locks it in. Like I said, it's not the most popular thing to do, but from a dollar and cents perspective, it's what we have to do.
So there's three tools. We have the mill, where we take over the top layer off the road, and then overlay, which is a thin layer of asphalt on top of that base, assuming there's not a lot of base repairs or a total rebuild of a road.
Correct.
And then we, a couple of years later, have a fog seal, which you described as similar to like your driveway sealant.
Correct.
And then we have the chip seal, is that the right word?
The chip seal, we do a crack sealing phase in between, and then we get to the chip seal.
Okay, excellent. And all of it is trying to get as much done with the limited resources.
Correct.
Was it $260,000 to do the mill and overlay? Was that the price for
Yes.
that? So yeah, if we have $2 million, we wouldn't get very far if that's all we.
So if you take our total mileage of road, which is 110 miles, we try to pave every road every 15 years. If you do the mathematics, we should be milling and paving 7 miles of road per year.
Okay.
Take 7 miles of road per year, multiply that times $260,000. You don't have enough money to do that.
Okay. And again, even to get there, we still got to maintain with it because of the Western Pennsylvania thaw-freeze cycle.
Yes.
And obviously not all roads get the same amount of use. There are some roads which have a lot of higher traffic counts and other roads that are low volume. And so they'll wear at different levels as well.
Correct. And that's when we use that 15-year cycle, it's an average. because you do have a low volume road versus a collector road. So that kind of averages it out.
So a resident at home might say something like, well, you've never paved my road. And that might be true. They may have only lived here 10 years. But if a resident has lived here 20 or 25 years, it's probably likely that the road may have been paved within that cycle, depending again on the volume and type of road.
Yeah, typically, I mean, 15 years is the max you're going to see out of your road, even if it's a low volume, small cul-de-sac street.
So for the residents at home, when you're doing the seal coat, is there anything that they need to be aware of? I mean, we see PennDOT doing it as well, and PennDOT will put signs up, but any special things they should or shouldn't do while that's going on, or just go about their business?
No, they need to go about their business. We will post the street ahead of time to let them know that some type of activity was going to occur. We do a mailing early in the season just to put them on notice, but you never can predict things with weather. You can't predict breakdowns. You can't predict material getting from the plant, so it's very hard to pinpoint it. So we only get out like a day or two ahead to let you know that we're going to be there.
And while operations are happening in your neighborhood, don't be afraid to talk to the contractor. There's generally an inspector nearby that's our staff person or contracted by us to work for your behalf. You may need to get out to go to a doctor's appointment. They're there to serve you and not to hold you up in your home. So it's important to communicate
it is.
with the contractor.
We've actually had instances where we put out signage and we'd have a phone call from a resident that says, I'm moving. I'm going to have a moving van here. So we kind of worked around that and altered our schedule to allow that to occur. So if we know that there's a situation, we try to accommodate that, even with our refuse collection. If we're going to be on a certain road the day of refuse collection, we'll get the refuse out ahead of them to get them out of the way.
Yeah. Your crew is amazing. So many of the staff members, you talk about the refuse collection. I had someone tell me that their kids draw pictures for their garbage men, and they just have a relationship with them. I'm always amazed as they go up and down the street the way they hustle to get the work done, and we provide a lot of service. A lot of communities are limited by can size, and we don't do any of that. We'll take as much as you put out on the curb with some limitations. Can't put construction materials out, and electronics, we have special but your road crews, your parks crew, they're always hard at work, but if you need something, you flag one of them down, they'll help. And I think that begins at the top. You not only have yourself, but you have deputy directors, if you would, who oversee some of those units. And it's just throughout the group, you all seem to have a great attitude.
They're a user-friendly group, from the supervisors to the foremans. I mean, they're a user-friendly group. If you got a question or comment, you can approach them.
Yeah.
They don't bite.
It's remarkable. About a team of 70 employees plus part-timers, about 100. And you and I could talk all day because I love how detailed you are. When you and I meet on a regular basis, you have spreadsheets that help me keep track of what it is we're to talk about and where the status of things are. So I really appreciate that. If you have questions at home, please, send them our way. The manager's questions for this program, if you have some of those. Sometimes I have to go to Paul for the answer or go to the police chief for the answer, and certainly welcome. Paul, I really appreciate the time you've taken today.
Not a problem.
I'm so proud of what you guys do.
Thank you.
We're one of the few full-service, public works communities in Allegheny County, and you guys do an outstanding job. Thank you.
And it's not about me, it's about them.
No, I know it. Yeah, this is uncomfortable for you.
It is.
And because you like making sure the team gets recognition. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
We'll see you now. Well, coming up next, highlights from another amazing Community Day event. Stay with us as Monroeville at your service returns in just a moment.